Well, hello. Can you hear me? I got to stop a couple things. So I got like this banner going, and so we're going to shut that down. Hello, and thanks very much for coming by. Happy Friday. This is really fun because it's been a really a busy week. I want to show you what I've been doing. And we have family coming over tomorrow. So that's kind of fun. I have been working on our yard uh, quite extensively. And so now that's done, and I'm going to be able to get back to working on this thing, my D&D diorama. And so I'm going to show you some pictures real quick because let me see which one I'm going to show you. Over here, I've got I think a nicer slide to kind of show you what's going on. So this is Barrett's Coffee House, my D&D diorama that I've been building on for, well, I don't know, a couple months now at least. I should probably look that up. And it's made to be played. You know, it's actually meant to be played D&D on. I want to be able to have, because this happened with my last diorama, and that's kind of one of the reasons I was showing that little intro thing. That was my last diorama, and somebody said, "Hey, that would be kind of cool to be able to play, you know, D&D or a tabletop game or whatever, since it was World War I. It would be kind of cool to play in that." And so I said, so that's what this is. This is me building a diorama that you can play D&D in. And, you know, it's nothing new. You can buy sets to do this. But I really wanted to build something from scratch like I do. And I have always thought about building this based on a story that I love, a fantasy story that I read starting in the 80s. And I continue to read it to this day. And this is a big part of it. So this is based on Raymond E. Feist's books. I have the book over here, actually. So it's based on Raymond E. Feist's books. Sorry, I just bumped the desk. It's just a disaster. But it's typically a disaster. So this is Raymond Feist's book, Magician. And man, I'm such a fan of this. I love his stuff. And I've read this book annually since the 80s, because it's one of those things that I think about in building dioramas. When I watch a movie, or when I build a diorama, or when I'm viewing a diorama, it's about this kind of a transportation thing. I want to be there, right? I want to be in the place that's portrayed in the book. That's why it's fun to go and read that book, because you immerse yourself in that little world. And cinematically, it's the same thing. When I'm watching a movie, I want to be in that place. I watch Indiana Jones, my favorite movie, so I can be in the jungle or where he's traveling and stuff, you know, on these great adventures. So that's what I think about when I build my diorama. So it was just a natural thing to use that as the basis for this diorama. And I just think it's coming out great so far. I mean, I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm so great. You know, no, I'm really happy with how it's coming out. So today we're going to talk about the roof, the shingles that I just finished up. I'm going to do a live demo. And then we're going to talk about what's next, because that's a big deal. You know, where am I going? I was going to go to the base of this. It's over there somewhere. And I was going to work on that. And then I shifted and started doing the roof, and then I got into this whole tangle, but it was totally fun and it came out great. We're going to look how it progressed today. That's what we're doing. I got to say hello. I'm so sorry I haven't said anything. Paul is here. Thank you very much, Paul. And I would love for you, if you're here, to say hello, because it's really nice to see folks and recognize they're here. So thanks very much for coming on, Paul. And John is here. Hello, John. I feel like I'm late, but it's not even noon yet. Well, it was because I kind of like doing that little trailer thing in front. I don't know. It was kind of, well, here we go. Here's the real reason that I do the trailer. So once this is all done, what I do is I will edit it for replay. But the edit, I don't want to cut out anything that I'm talking about, so you don't miss something, right? And so if I put that little trailer on at the beginning, then when I come to edit, I can just cut that trailer. And then I can create a replay that doesn't have the trailer. And it's just that. It's just an easier thing. So that's why I do it. But I kind of think of it like, you know, the old movies, you'd go in and there'd be like this little trailer or like a cartoon in front of it. If I was a cartoonist, I would do that, but I'm not. Hey, thank you very much from Homefront Forge. I really appreciate you coming in. You've been in a few times now, and that's really, really cool. I really appreciate it. So let's get back to these slides. And then again, I've got you see how the camera, this is my top down camera. I've got that set so I can show you live how we work on and how I kind of work with this ridge. See this ridge line, and we're going to go into this, but this ridge line is not finished. This ridge line over here is, and boy, can I even get that in the camera? So this ridge line is. And as you look at that ridge line, it's really nice and clean, and everything comes together real nice. Well, that's what I want for the whole thing. I want, when you're looking at this thing, I just don't want anything to spoil the reality. And, you know, I've had this conversation, I've had this question a few times. When's enough detail? Why do you put detail in like in that spot or something like that? And I guess the issue is, I think I've said this before, but I think it's a good thing to remember. I don't want people who look at the diorama to find something that can shatter the illusion of this is a real place, or it's you know what I mean? You know, everything in there looks like it should fit. And when I say in there, I do a lot of dioramas with like rooms in them and things like that. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Here's the inside of the room of the top level below the attic and stuff. So there's the outside. And I just don't want things in there that are going to spoil the reality to pull you out of it. You know, you're looking around a diorama and it's looking really neat and you're really enjoying it and you're seeing all these details and fun stuff. And then you see a bit of pink foam and it's like, you know, that kind of spoils it. Or you're looking around and I don't know, something just doesn't fit. So that's really how I kind of decide what details are going to be in it, how far I take the details and stuff like that. And it's the same thing with this. It's going to be very visible. You know, this is the top of the diorama. So you're going to see this very cleanly and clearly, I guess, is a better way to put it. And if that doesn't look right, it'll just look like they just threw some shingles on there. The person that built it, you know, I messed up and just threw some shingles on. And I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look like it was shingled properly, whether good or bad, because I think this roof is a little bit better than this roof. I'm okay with that because I doubt the same person roofed this than this in that, you know, reality that I'm trying to create. So I don't know. I might even have these a little different shade. They're a little bit newer over here because these are older. There's some repair. So there's new shingles in here, but there's also old weathered shingles. So there's a lot of stuff to do to this roof still. And I think that's the fun. But if I don't get this base down, if I don't get the foundation for that correct, like I'll show you today, then it can fall apart very, very easily. So that's why I try to really concentrate on those details, really try to make it as real as it possibly can. So let's go back and look at some of these slides here real quick. That's not slides, that's slides. So today we're going to discuss finishing up the roof, and I'll show you that live, and then what's next. And before I go on, I want to go ahead and talk about these shingles because I've had a fair few questions about that. You know, are these shingles that you've purchased? Where did you get your shingles? I'm in the wrong thing. Where did you get your shingles? How did you make them? Whatever the case may be. And yes, I made these from it's veneer. Let's go back to me. Sorry. I made it from veneer. I've got this 1/16. Earlier on, I said it was 1/32. So if you're looking for something like maybe to do this also, it's 1/16 inch veneer. And they're large sheets. they're about 20 inches long by 10 inches, but they're varied. And I cut them down into individual shingles. Are they completely scale? I don't think so. I think they're a little large, frankly. But I'm also dealing with lots of scale issues in this diorama build. It's D&D. And my neighbor, who's a D&D person, he actively plays, he writes stories, he works with a online publisher of games, all that kind of stuff. So he's really, really deep into it. We had a conversation. He brought 3 of his D&D characters over. And in doing so, I'm looking at it. That's not the picture I wanted either. In doing so, we went ahead and looked at the sizes that I would need. I'm going to go to a different picture. I know it's in here some darn weird. Sorry. We looked at different pictures, and some of the figures were so dramatically different in size. I decided to do this in an off scale. And by off scale, I mean, I've got my figure up here that I use. I had him up here. Here he is. So these are 1/35th scale figures. It's my standard scale that I work in and stuff like that. Because he had 3 different figures that started a little bit shorter than this, about 32 millimeters. This is, I think, 50 to 52 millimeters is the proper size, or the standardized size for a 1/32nd or 1/35th scale figure. I'm all over the place today. So that's what I'm used to doing. But there were some that were this tall, standing next to it. And then there were some that were like this, like ogres and boss fight people and stuff like that. I've got a couple of my original little pewter, ogres that I had. A friend gave them to me, and in high school. And those are pretty small. But gosh, some of these figures are this big. So I did make this out of scale, really, because there's a 35th scale figure inside there. It's totally small. But I wanted room and the ability to reach in there with your hand, to move things around, to move your characters around, and let the dungeon master figure out a game based on this area, or based on the scenes that I'm developing and the levels that I'm developing in this. Excuse me. So the scale's a little bit weird. Oh, excuse me. I'm coughing. So the scale is a little bit weird. So they are a little bit large, but I do believe if you want to get completely correct on your scale, this is still really a good method. I am building a video on that. I have shown some stuff on how that is in shorts and stuff like that. But I am building a long form video about how to make these in particular, how to make scale shingles. Because I think it's something that can be used in multiple different disciplines, multiple different genres, be it World War I, World War, whatever, just building a house diorama for your family. I think shingles are wonderful to make. So we're going to look at applying those and all that kind of stuff. And I've got some more slides to show you about that. What else do we got? I am going to go back over here to slides, I think. Yes. And this is how I started my slides. I started with this structure that allowed me to have courses. The other thing that was important for me here is I didn't measure all of this stuff out. And some people may have a problem with that. I'm really trying to think of how folks did this back in, 700 years ago. I kind of want to think that it's been repaired, it's shifted, it's moved, it's settled, it's all kinds of things. I mean, it's pretty straight up and down. It's pretty, plumb and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, when I'm looking at this roof, I do want it to look like that there is some character to it. I don't want to go full comical. I don't want to go full on like I've seen some things like in Warhammer and stuff, which I think is very cool. But I don't want it to have the saggy roofs and stuff like that, which I say comical, but I mean, you'll see buildings like that in Europe. I mean, I lived in Germany for 3.5 years, and yeah, you can see this style, half timber Tudor style building. You can see that with those suede ceilings and stuff like that, and sagging timbers and stuff like that. I didn't want to go that far, but I did want to have a variability that makes it look like it was handmade. I don't want to look at this and see shingles just, dead straight rows and perfectly laid in. I don't want that. I don't want them all the same color. That's the other thing you're looking at here. There's a nice variation of color in those shingles. I love that. I don't want to cover that up. I'm going to paint this. I'm going to, age it and weather it and all that kind of stuff. I do want those original colors to come out. It'll be vastly different when it's finished, certainly, but I still think those base colors are going to look good. As I said earlier, I do want to, well, I'll just go back to the picture. I was going to hold it up. I do want to be able to go in there and say, this was repaired. Show something where you see brand new shingles, just like a few of them here or there in a clump, like a hole got punched through the roof or something like that. And, you had to go for a repair. So that's some of the kind of stuff that I want to bring to this roof line as I continue. So let's go back to some of these, some more of these pictures. So when I started doing this, I had this idea that I would have this little flat area that one of the people in the story that I love, the magician book, his name is Jimmy the Hand. He's really cool. And he's like a thief. He's a boy thief, and he plays a very, very pivotal role in like the 8th book and things like that, but also in the first set of books of Magician. And so I thought this would be a great place for him because he does a lot of his work on rooftops. So as I'm going in here, I'm thinking this will be great. There's this like nice kind of flattish spot. It does have a slope, but it's pretty shallow. And this comes back and bites me later. And we're going to look at that and how I fixed it and how I repaired it, because this is a really bad idea. And the reason is this. And it's funny because Mrs. Modelcraft says, why would you worry about that? Well, there's that realistic thing. If somebody says, well, a roof would never look like that, well, then that blows it for that person. I don't want to blow it for that person. I want them to look at it and enjoy looking at it. I don't want to instruct necessarily them when they're viewing it how to make it and say you're right or you're wrong. That's not the point. I just want them to enjoy looking at it and not have or find those things that blow the reality of it, just like I was saying before. So I went in and I'm working on these shingles and I'm setting them in, and they're looking pretty good. This is an issue, I know, but I'm like, I'll figure it out later. It won't be a bad idea. So I kind of continue on. Now, one of the things that we're going to look at today is this ridge line on the left-hand side of the screen. You can kind of see there's a ridge line where two of these courses or two of these angles are coming together to a point. And so there has to be some trimming there. That's one of the things we're going to look at today, because that's one of the things that's necessary to finish this thing off, to really make it look right, because anybody that's roofing is going to do that properly. And that's like right here. So what we're looking at now in the picture is this ridge line just starting down here, down below. But it's building this ridge line so that those shingles come in and properly meet. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. And we're going to look at how I do that later on. But as I go forward, I'm looking at this and you see, I haven't done anything to that flat area. And the more I work with it, I keep thinking to myself, I'm going to have to do something here. But I kept going forward. Now, here's another problematic area. In building this, I have these edges. Okay, so here's the edge, and that's supposed to be a zero profile. I don't know what the heck you call it, like infinity. It's supposed to show that this is the view you're looking at, but it's supposed to continue on. There's supposed to be more building out there, but I'm just cutting it off, okay? Well, I did that on this side, and it came out really nice, and it's really clean, and I did this. But at the time, I hadn't done it to this side because it was just really difficult. If you look at this, this comes up to a flat spot. Well, it didn't used to. it used to come up about this much height. It was even with this roof line. So kind of figuring out how to join all this stuff up top was really kind of a difficulty for me. I was just like, man. So I kicked it down the road a little bit, kicked the can down the street. And finally it came to the point where I had to fix it. Well, this is it. So I went in there and what I had to do is figure out where the cutoff line is and then back that with a beam. Because if I just tried to cut this off, I could do that, but if I cut this thing off this way, it's gonna, did I just lose yeah, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. What'll happen is, why am I doing this? This is wrongness. There we go. I'm sorry about that. That beam right there, and it's this last beam, if I can get my cursor in to show you here, it's this last beam to the right under these pencil lines you see right here. That's the beam that I had to add. Because if I didn't, there would be nothing there to really support the shingles. But moreover, when you're working with this thing and you go to grab it, you need to be able to pick this up. This is going to be a playable piece. You got to pick it up and remove it and all that kind of jazz. When you go to pick it up, it's not going to have anything there. So I had to add this vertical beam just like this on this side. So I'm matching the same deal. And then I did this one here, and that's supposed to increase the slope a little bit. Now, I saw that from drawings of half timber homes and stuff like that, actual drawings, and that's just part of what they did. Creating also a little flat space. Now in the story, I know I'm jumping around like mad, but in the story that I'm trying to work on, Jimmy the Hand that works on the roofs in Midkemia, the world that this exists in, he uses those little flat areas to be able to stay up on the roof line, go around, do robberies and things like that. Well, that was so important to me that I had that little spot. That's why I kept it there so long. So anyway, let me finish my story here. I put these in, then I marked them back, did the same thing on the back side, cut them back. And then here's how I came to the top. I literally just had to lift this thing up on the side, lop that thing off with a handsaw, but I've got a brilliant handsaw, so it worked great. And then come back and ensure it. And I just thought I'd show you. Some of the joinery here was really, really tricky, but it worked out great. And I have a really nice now termination of those shingles and of the edge of the roof line. Okay, so now here, excuse me, now we're going to look at this. So about midweek this week, I got this from Nicholas Coleman. And by the way, we had a wonderful exchange going forward, but he says, your work is great, Bill. So I hate to be critical in any way. However, typical roofs with a pitch of less than 212 are not shingled. I'm not also sure what the proper solution would be in a historically accurate flat section roof, other than to say it probably most likely wouldn't exist. But hey, that's just what makes models great. Well, look, I knew I needed to do something here. I was uneasy about it. I was just kicking it down the road. This comment, which was really nice, and we had, like I said, nice conversations, really said, look, I got to do this. So that's what I did. I just dove in, and it wasn't hard to fix, but it did make the next part a lot more difficult. And that part is trying to get these valleys, these gullies, whatever you called in proper roofing parlance, made them really difficult to make. I spent hours last night trying to do this. This week, I think I worked till midnight, 3 nights a week, just trying to solve this issue. And so we're going to look at how I did that, because how I had it initially done, how I had that flat area, that was done first. And then the side, this side slope of the roof came down on top of it. That's proper, right? Because then this sheds water to this, and then that sheds water down. Well, now they meet. And frankly, that's not necessarily the way it should work. Now, with modern techniques and stuff like that, you've got sealers, you put stuff in the valley, there's like this rubber membrane, and heck, there's steel and copper and all kinds of flashings and stuff you can put in those gullies to make sure that water doesn't permeate your roof. But back then, you had to do your best to make sure that things, when something's coming off this shingle, there's enough here, and this slope that I'm making with my hands is enough that it drips off here and it doesn't go that way, it goes this way. So it continues its fall to the ground. I even with the fix that I did, I wasn't able to achieve that. Now, it looks really nice, but it's not the way it should have been done. What should have happened is I build this area first, do not shingle these, and then shingle these so that as the water sheds down here, there's a little bit of a cut underneath these that drips onto this, and then it sheds water out. So I like doing things the right way because, number one, I'm learning as I do it. I just think it's interesting how things are built, made, done, techniques, tools, all that kind of stuff. I just love that. I'm a journey kind of person, right? The building of this is so much more interesting than when it's finished to me that, that's what I'm interested in. So I really wanted to make that right. I didn't. I wasn't able to. Now, there are ways to do this. You could put pitch, you could put, something in there. In the day, it is possible to make this perfectly fine because there were repairs and there were things you had to do. So I'll show that when I do the finishing of it. But I just want you to know there was a little bit of a difference there, and I could have done it different. But how did I repair it? So let's watch. Let's go back over here. So thank you very much, Nicholas. That was great. So what I did was I came in here and I said, look, what I've got to do is I've got to basically get enough slope coming off this little mid-roof and this little mid-roof line here coming down as far as I can down here to kind of match up with these bottom shingles. And so that's what I did. I just took two beams, put them in there, did my cross lath. Is it lathing? Lathing? I don't know. And that seemed to work really well. But you see what I did on the left-hand side? I left the shingles there. I did tear out the bottom shingles down to the last course and then restarted them. But on the left-hand side, I just left them there. I could have torn those out. I was just thinking that would have been bumming. So I just didn't. To do it properly, I probably should have. So anyway, let's keep going here. This then became the biggest issue that I had. And this is last night. I'm doing this last night. I am trying to fit these. And, I don't know what the technique is called. But when carpenters and finish carpenters are putting in molding and things like that, they're cutting these things back so they fit properly. So it's not that I'm taking a shingle like this and just cutting it at an angle or whatever, maybe under beveling it or something like that so it sits better. I'm actually putting a profile in this thing so that it matches up to the uneven profile that I'm trying to get it to join. What a pain in the tuchus, I'm telling you. So when I'm looking at this thing, or when you're looking at it, it doesn't look that bad. When you're really in there, man, it's a son of a gun. Same thing on this side. I had to trim this thing down, going in, and I mean, this is the result that I got. And I think it's pretty tight. But man, I destroyed so many shingles just trying to do this. That I should have cut those other ones out. I should have torn them up. Here's the other side, the right-hand side. And man, it was a son of a gun. But again, it's going to look nice. It'll look nice for a diorama. But if somebody that's a roofer comes up to it, we're going to have a conversation because it's just not, it's just not how you do it. So anyway, The next thing we're doing is this. So there's that ridge line. And this is where we go live demo kind of stuff right here. I'm going to turn that camera back on. And it's really not hard at all. It is just trying to match these angles and having kind of what I want here are these two shingles at that corner point to come so closely together that I'll put glue in there so that they join up, so that I can see a very nice transition from one angle to the other angle on the roof line. And so that's what I'm doing. It's not hard. You're just sticking these in there, but you kind of want to do one over the other and then reverse it on the next side. I think that's going to give me the cleanest treatment for this corner. This is what I'm going for. You see that straight line with those angled shingles coming together. That's what we're doing. Now, I was able to do it here because I did these a slightly different way. When I did this side, I wasn't able to do it the same way because of the extreme angle that I was dealing with. So now after everything's in there, I'm going to come back and make them nice and clean like this. And that process isn't difficult. It's just that, you know, I want you to see it done. When I was trying to figure out how to put on shingles properly and all that kind of stuff, how to make them, all the things, I did see some people laying down shingles, but it was just, and both real shingles and in miniature, like they're building a scale diorama. And I mean, in most every one of them, folks were just doing straight across courses. There wasn't a lot of going around here. There wasn't a lot of this. There weren't like valleys and ridges and stuff like that. Now, some of the folks that were doing some of the medieval castles and things like that for D&D and all that kind of stuff, they did do them, but they were making the shingles out of very thin, XPS foam or something where it's flexible. And it's a whole different animal when you're doing on this rigid, super thin piece of real wood. You have to do it kind of like the real folks do it. So I didn't get a lot of help from Miniature Makers Online. I did get a lot of help from some of the videos, but they didn't really go into how to do the corner. So I figured it out. I'm pretty crafty that way. And I think the solution is pretty good. So we're going to take this and turn it back on. It has a timer. So it cuts out. But now we can see, and I will show you how to do this. We're going to this camera now. How's that? And I just want to show you how to put some of these guys in. So what I've got here is just a little, I use this a lot. And I use this in multiple ways. This is just a very small chisel, and I use it for like almost everything that I work on, plastic or wood. Pardon me. And the first thing I had to do is I had to go in here before laying these courses up here. I had to go in here with this vertical in this direction and cut in here. I have video of that, and I'll show that sometime. But what I'm trying to do is I'm preparing these sides to have something come flushed up to them. So that was the first process. Now I'm going to use the same deal to basically place these in here, and I'm going to glue them on there, and I'm going to cut them off just so they fit properly. And then I'll do the other side. I mean, that's it. Again, it's not real difficult. The thing that is important is to make sure that I'm trimming this stuff back like this. I left these here to kind of show you actually something. And I'm trimming that back so that now I have a flush plane coming out this way. Same thing here. I'm kind of trimming these back. This you could do either with a scalpel or, a craft knife. The reason that I prefer to use this is look at the thickness of that chisel. Can you see how thick it is? That makes it rigid. It doesn't flex. It gives me the ability to come in here and make a very nice cut, and it's not going to flex or move. I don't want anything dished or anything like that, which can certainly happen when you're using, you know, a craft knife. See, it flexes. Same thing with a scalpel. Super nice, works great, but that flexing can hurt. So I'm going in here. I'm cleaning these up. This one I was also proud. And I'm just taking the flat of this just like that. I'll get a little bit closer so you can see. I'm taking this like this and then just moving up. And I'm just clearing the way for the shingle that I would put on there. Okay. That one actually doesn't need one. I just cleaned it up. This one down here, it needs a little bit of cleaning up. Okay. So now, and here's another point. As I said, I did all this last night. I can't do this when it's wet. I tried that. It doesn't. It has to be overnight. It has to be super dry before you can come in and do this stuff because it'll just pull them right up. These are real wood. Like I said, they're 16th inch pieces of mahogany veneer that I cut down. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm in camera here. This thing is sliding all over the place. But it's 16th of an inch veneer that I cut down to make these shingles. And it's going to be a lot tougher to cut through than balsa wood or basswood. In the issue of balsa wood, of course, is pretty easy to cut. But with basswood, you know, or balsa wood, you don't really have a lot of grain. And because you don't have a lot of grain, it's really easy to cut. When you're cutting a wood that actually has some grain into it, and this is not bad, this mahogany is not too bad, your blade will sometimes want to follow the grain, or the grain will pull your blade in a certain direction. So, and this will certainly do that. So you've got to be careful when you're using real woods like this, because that's something that you're not really going to experience when you're using like a balsa. Obviously, that's real wood. I'm just saying it's not a hardwood with a lot of grain in it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So what I'm targeting are these areas that don't look like they're finished. I got to cut this back a little bit because that just needs a piece. And here's where I will use this because I can't get in there with the tip of that chisel. And I can cut this and hopefully I won't destroy anything. Try to make a nice flat area so that the glue has, you know, nice surface to join. Now, the other thing about our shingles is they are tapered. When I made these, and there's videos that I put online about making these are tapered. And so the top is much thinner. There's a bevel here, and then the bottom is thicker. So if I'm doing the base of this, I'm not going to cut a top there. It's not going to fit or match up properly. I've got to cut it from the bottom. So I've just kind of eyeballed it there. I know what I'm going to do. This time I will use a scalpel because it's a longer cut. I'm just cutting. I just broke my scalpel. So I guess I will use my hobby knife. I'm going to cut this little guy right here. And I had someone say, hey, you know, could you use like maybe some clippers or something like that? I guess you could. The problem is this wood will want to splinter. And so a sharp knife, I really think, is the best way to go. Now, what glue am I using? Here is my glue. This is yellow wood glue. Could I use Mod Podge on this? I think it could. You know, I'm used to using wood glue and I have it. So for me, it works just fine. And I don't have a problem with it. If you only had Mod Podge, I would use it. I think it'd be fine. Okay, so I'm just going to set that in there. And it's a little long. That's okay. Come back. Trim that back a little bit. I think the angle is a little bit too steep too. So I'll cut that back. Bring it in. Set it in there. That looks much better. I'll press it in. Then I take my another brush. I usually have two brushes here. And with wood glue, I mean, it is going to soak into the wood and it's going to make things, I'm sorry, my arm is in the way. I'm just dabbing away a little extra water here. But it'll soak into the wood. And so if you try to use like an overall wash, like you would maybe on a model or something like that, and change the tone of something like that, the glue will prevent it from soaking in. I know I've talked about this the last couple of weeks, but that's why I'm doing this water thing. I'm kind of trying to minimize it by washing it away. And then I'm dabbing out excess. That's still going to leave a little glue behind, but it's going to be better. I'm not going to use a wash over this, so I'm not too worried about it, but it's something that you might want to consider. Okay, so the next one right here, I'm going to do the same thing. Go up. That's nice and clear. And I am going to cut this next one. And it's the same process all the way up on these. But if you don't do them, you'll come back and just be like, I should have done that. Just doesn't look right. Try to match up the bottom. That's making a nice little pocket for the next one to go in. Little dab of glue. Put it right there. So yeah, no rocket science being discussed here today, but look at that. It cleans it up. So that is how I'm going to go all along this ridge, get all of these guys in there, and get that nice and clean. So one of the other things I said I was going to do today is trimming this off. So now on all these edges, I went ahead. I'll show this edge a little bit. Let me back this out and you can see better. So on the rooftops, I want flat rooftops. And the reason for flat rooftops is I want the top or the surface of the roof line to be playable, just like the attic is playable, just like the top level is playable. You know, effectively, this thing is going to have, let's see, top of the roof, attic, top floor, middle floor, bottom floor, basement, sewer system, and ancient tomb. So those are the levels. Why did I go in like that? I was like, anyway, 8 levels. So it just gives your dungeon master enough or as much, I think, options possibly in creating a story for this. You know, I've talked about this a bunch. In my dioramas, I create a story and I try to follow that, and that becomes my plan. In this, there's something similar is happening there because I have the story from Raymond Feist, and it's a beautiful story. And I know the story because I've read it so many times, and it's in my head. But I don't want you to play this thing one time, right? You've got to be able to play this. You've got to be able to take the levels and the layers and the scenery that I've created and build other stories so that you can play it in different scenarios and different characters and whatever continuations, whatever, after you play it the first time. So that's the other thing that I'm considering. And by having more levels, you know, the roof is a level that can be played. So I'm having these flat spots. I do have area open inside here so you can have people moving through there. I don't know what they're doing. That's up to the DM. I know what they're going to be doing when I build it and finish it off. But when I do the details, when I do the finite stuff that goes in these rooms and all that kind of stuff, I think some will be glued down just to generally put some stuff there. But the rest of the stuff, like I typically build, it's all going to be loose. It's all going to be where you can just place it wherever you'd like. And I think that's going to be a really fun part of it. To include possibly some stuff on the roof. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. So what I did want to show you again was how I just trim these off because, and you know, I was going to use that scalpel, but I got to get my other one. It's, I think it's the same blade, but that's where the scalpel really does come into play and does a nice job. So let's swap back over here. Here I've got these and I'm telling you, I got to be really careful with this thing because, you know, I don't want to take it through my hand, but I'm trying to get it as flat as possible. And I'm just scoring it. Okay. And the reason I want to score it is when you're trying to cut through wood, the fibers are going to be tenacious on the last part of your cut. And you, by scoring it, you're going to end up having a cleaner cut once you get all the way through the wood. So in other words, if I was trying to go through this wood from this side a bunch of times, by the time I got to the other side would just be all, raggy. So I try to cut that so it's not. Now I'm going to kind of come in from the top. Again, this is dried overnight. This is the thinnest part too. That's very helpful. That helps. So I'm just coming in here just like you would think. And cut that. Now, I'm not really sawing away from how the shingle is laid in, meaning that I'm not pulling, because I could still remove some of these. I don't want to do that, by knocking it off or pulling it off as I'm cutting. So when I do my sawing action, it's just sawing inward, just because to try and keep from pulling that off. Now, again, this isn't rocket science, but I think it's kind of nice to see somebody else do something. And that's why I'm kind of showing you this way. I think everybody would pretty much, yeah, I can cut that off. That's not a big deal. Well, okay. But hopefully this is helpful. So we are cutting this guy off of here. And then I just sand it. And the same thing as before, I don't want to sand counter to the direction that it's laid in. I don't want to be sanding in that direction, against the grain kind of. I want to sand in this direction, just so I'm not pulling things off. It can still make it kind of a ratty surface if you're not doing it. You're going against the grain is what I'm trying to say. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Well, it doesn't look great at all. It looks terrible, but I'll show you how we fix that up. Then, what did I do? Here it is. Just regular sanding stick works great. Now, I have, regular woodworking equipment and stuff, and so a sanding block would work great, but this is what most people have, so that's why I'm using this. This is a medium, 100, and that's taking that stuff down, being careful not to hit any edges. And here's something that we need to talk about. When I'm doing these shingles, and let me show you something here. Man, there's just stuff everywhere. When I'm doing these, I haven't done it over here and over here yet, but after they're all done, these are really sharp, right? On the bottom edges, the not leading edge, the trailing edge. The trailing edge of these are really sharp. You don't want that. A really great woodworker that I had the pleasure of meeting many years ago. Well, 5 or 6 years ago. It's not that many. He told me, on any of your woodworking, you should never, ever have a sharp corner. I mean, a nicely formed, coming to an edge should be nice. But the hand needs to move over woodwork. This is going to be handled. It's a piece that people pick up and move. So it is a piece of woodwork. So think about that. If you're ever building something, you don't want something like super sharp edge or super sand this way and that. So you get this like knife edge. You don't want that because the hand needs to move over your woodworking. Same thing with these shingles. So I have done it to this side and I'm sanding it. I'm actually sanding it. I'm trying to get any loose edges. I'm trying to get any of those sharp little edges. As you're playing this, let's say it's on a gaming table. Heck, it could be like a just somebody's kitchen table. You're playing your D&D game. Somebody's wearing a sweater. They go to reach over it. There's a shingle there. It's going to grab it. You take the whole thing out. Think about that when you're doing it. Now, I'm not even saying just because it's real wood. Even balsa wood will do that. Don't leave any sharp edges on any of your wood, anything like that. It can snag. When it snags, it will possibly mess up whatever it's snagging on, but it can also mess up your model. I mean, this thing, I took a picture of it. I mean, it's so flipping high, I can't put it there, right? It's just so tall. If it fell over with all your characters and stuff in it, that would be terrible. So take those precautions. And like I do, sand this thing back. So let's get back to it here. I mean, I don't think there's a heck of a lot left, but let's give it a shot. So once I have this stuff all sanded down like I have here, I built these structures in. So like on this one, I built this top structure in. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with that. One of the things that they did for the tops of roofs and flat places and stuff like that was hammered lead. So lead sheeting, which, you know, if any modeler is, sorry, my paper towels came undone under my feet. So it's just a mess down here. Anyway, if you're doing modeling, you've used like the wrappers off wine bottles is a great thing. The old ones might even have been lead. I don't know, but it's this really nice, flexible material that you can put on there that'll look good. That might be what I do on the top of these, but there's also ridge like accoutrements and things like that. But hey, you know what? I have not said hello for a little while, and I've like two people have said hi and stuff like that. Jacob Snyder, hello. Thanks very much for coming on. I hope you're doing well as well. And then Airdink is here. Hello, Airdink. It is so nice to see you. It has been a very long time. Can't catch your live stream, but I always watch it. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Airdink. I am so glad to see you. It has been a long time. And so basically, when I'm doing this stuff, I don't necessarily have the full idea of what I'm going to do with these tops. I know I need to be able to walk on them. I know there's some more decorations like this ridge thing I was talking about. I just don't know. I'm not worried about it. It's going to come to me as it gets there. But I think I'm pretty well much, you know, ready to move on from the roofing part. And I'm pretty happy about that because there's other stuff that I want to do, but there was just, you know, it's just stuff hanging. I didn't want this to hang, this roofing issue that was coming up. And so, yeah, it was a pretty good week. I'm pretty happy with it. So the next thing, what is next? Well, there is this. This is an issue. Soffits. Can you see underneath here? Those are all open. So that's a soffit thing that I got to work on. And then I do want to work on getting something in here. Now, here's something I haven't done. I think I can't remember if I have shown this before or not live, but how I trim the edge of these. That'd be kind of fun. I'm going to show you that real quick because I use my hand plane to do that, and it makes it really nice like this. So let me, I don't even have my hand plane here, so hold on for a second. What I do is I use this really super nice hand plane, and when it's time to do this, I kind of look at the edge, how it's going. Let me see if where's the heck? It's probably better to do this like this. Can you see that? I'm going to see if you can. Yes, I think you can. So I've got this upside down now, but what I'm trying to do is just, I'm going to turn another light on because you can't see anything. I can hardly see anything. How's that? A little better, maybe. I take this and I'm just, well, that one just knocked off, and just kind of easily go over these and knock them down. And once you get them so that the high points are taken care of, then you'll actually be planing them like now, really clean. So look at that. And that, you know, initially was pretty rough. So we've already got it down. It's just not completely flush yet, that back beam. So I'm just going to keep going. And that's how I do it. Now, if you're worried that I'm handling this a little bit rough, yeah, I got to be careful. But again, it is wood. It's not plastic or anything else. It's pretty darn tough. There we go. And I think it needs to be tough because I want it to be handled. See there? So that's nice and flush on there. And I can just use my hand plane to do that. I will go back and sand that. You know, I will go back, just like I was saying, and smooth it. But that makes it nice just so that you can continue working on it. And that's what I've done, like with all the edges. Well, there you go. How was that? That was pretty good, I think. I hope you liked it. Let's see. John says, how will you be treating the top of the roof? Yeah, that was that thing I was trying to explain about the lead, because they had like sheets of lead, and it was like hammered lead, and they would put those down on like flat spots, or maybe the crest of the roof. So you could do that. I don't know if pitches and stuff were used. I got to look more at that. I definitely want it so you can set a figure. That's a big deal. It's got to be big enough and flat enough so a figure can be set upon the roof. So that's one of the things. Bill, I love all your diorama that you made, and this one is going to be killing. And I hope one day I can afford to buy one from you. I hope so too. I think that'd be great. I've always said I don't sell my dioramas, and I don't. I really do build them for myself, but I'm getting to a point where I don't know where I'm going to put them. I've got some stowed, and so yeah, that may come up someday. So thanks, Erdink. I really appreciate that. So yeah, that's about it, folks. I've got a bunch of stuff, coming up. I really am excited about finishing those tops. I don't know, John, if you're going to be on our build tonight, I'd love to talk to you about it, and maybe we can come up with something, because each Friday I have a group build. Beautiful segue, huh? I have a group build on Patreon with my top tier Patreon folks, and John is typically there. John is a patron, and it's a lot of fun. And because we can talk and stuff like that. It's not just me yammering on. And so yeah, we figure a lot of that stuff out. But I said something or wrote something earlier today about Nicholas Coleman. I put on there a comment, but it was an online contributor. And I kind of think that's how it is. I've gotten so many wonderful ideas, help, just feedback from people online. And certainly there's like this hierarchy. I don't want to make it sound like that. No, it's not a hierarchy. It's just that there are some people that I talk to virtually every day, and they're gestating these ideas with me. They're living that journey of me building every project that I've been building now for the past couple of years. And that's a wonderful thing. It's not like I come into the shop each day and I'm in here by myself and I can go see Mrs. Modelcraft, sometimes throughout the day. It's not that at all. I feel like I'm coming into my, and I've said this on my website, my junior high art class. This was a huge, huge thing for me growing up. I had the most wonderful teacher in junior high, and she was an art teacher. Her name was Mrs. Graham. And she just had the way of trying to take some people that had all these wonderful ideas of things that they wanted to do and things they wanted to create, and she just helped them focus a little bit. And why I think that's important is growing up, I would be in an art class or something, I never took art. It was just like it's an elective, and it's like, it's easy. I'll take art, So I'd go into an art class, and sometimes it's like, look, it's structured. You have to do this. Well, it's like, I don't want to do that. This is my interest. Well, Mrs. Graham was wonderful in that regard because it was just open. You come up with what you want to build, work on, draw, paint, sculpt, whatever, and she would give you feedback. And it was wonderful. So when I come in my shop, number one, when I built it, the floor, I don't know if I've shown the floor of my shop a lot, but the floor of my shop is painted a specific color, because I remember the cement floors in my junior high art building. The whole building was art. There was like music and art and blah, blah, blah. All of that had painted floors because they were cement. So I painted the floor in my shop because of that. And it feels like walking into that whole junior high art complex because, like I said, there was music, there was a metal shop, there was a wood shop, there was a ceramic shop, and there was the art, for drawing and stuff like that, painting and all that. Well, my shop is kind of a miniature version of that. And for me personally, like when I get in here and the feeling of it, it is that. And when I come in here and I have these comments from the people on my Patreon and Facebook and Instagram, and I mean YouTube and stuff like that, it's like seeing my friends and we're talking about what you're going to do today in the shop. I don't know. It's just, it feels that way. And it's fun. It was such a seminal thing in junior high because, you're at that age, what are you going to do? Just sports is, and that didn't necessarily say this is what your life's going to be, but it gave me the ability to identify, man, this is something I'm pretty darn good at. And at that age, that time in your life, to be able to say, I'm pretty darn good at something is huge. And frankly, it's carried throughout my life, right? I don't care what I was doing in my life, and I did pretty good, But I always had that one thing. I could draw. I had this creative energy. So when it came to Mrs. Modelcraft and before it was Modelcraft, all that, when it came to build this shop and we were able to do it, those were the kind of feelings that came into this. It was a place to create, and it has wood, and it has a metal shop, and it has place for drawing and all this kind of stuff. It has music because I have all my albums and stuff in here. It's a remarkable thing. So when I have that community, it's like going to junior high art class, and everything is open and everything is possible. And that's pretty cool. So I don't know why I go on these jags, but I enjoy this so much. And sometimes I just have to say it, I suppose. So anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to my slides real quick because I'm sure there's something I forgot. Those aren't slides. Are those slides? Those are slides. We're going to go down here, and I got to go over here. And hey, Modeler Spotlight. So if you would like to be on the Modeler Spotlight, that is where I have a person that is working on something, and I'd love for them to come on and you possibly could be on the show. Like John has been on the show. Certainly somebody could be on the show if you have all the equipment. I wouldn't mind that at all. But if you just want to send me some pictures and stuff, I would love to do that too. These are my patrons and my YouTube members. And I got to tell you, those folks that I was talking about, that I come in and I talk to every day, these are some of them. Not all of them. Not all of them, because there's even more than this. But I got to tell you, it is the most remarkable thing to have this community to help, like I say, contribute to what I'm doing. It's really fun. I'm talking to friends every day about what I build. So anyway, I just thought that was fun. If you're interested in that kind of thing, it is available to you too. You can do some comments. I love reading comments. I do answer all comments. And I do take criticism in a way that is constructive. I don't have time to get mad at stuff. I don't have time to think, oh, that person. No, I'm like, well, what are they seeing? There was another comment earlier this week that said, man, you were jumping all over. It was a very nice gentleman. Just says, like, man, you kind of failed on this one. On this video, it's an older video. He's like, you were jumping all around. I couldn't even focus on anything to see it. And his comment at the bad was like bad reporting, or the comment at the end of his comment was bad reporting. I don't see that as negative at all. He was interested enough to see it, and he was interested enough to try to help make it better for somebody else. Brilliant. How could I go wrong with that? So yeah, tell me what you think. Love to hear from you. Love to talk to you online. And if you're interested in doing stuff where like we're on together, like John and I do, you know, visually, all that kind of stuff. So we're talking back and forth, have an actual conversation virtually. Yeah, Patreon, it's available. So thank you very much, everybody. I got to get the heck out of here. I'm like on the verge of a cough. I can feel it. I've been talking so much that I've got this cough coming on, and that just happens when I talk too much. I should shut up more. Well, have a great one. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you do not get a chance to get at your bench, then get on the internet. There's plenty of people doing it, and live vicariously through them. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you. Bye.